We spent a little over a week trying to make the best zombie deck we possibly could for New Standard. We went back and forth between blue, black, white, black, Esper, everything you could think of. We tried to make it work, and finally we were testing a blue-black build that showed some promise, but then, out of nowhere, at the SCG Open this past weekend, a player by the name of Jacko top 16 with a black-white tribal zombie build. So naturally, I built it immediately and started playing, and wow, just friggin' wow, it puts my list to shame. This Black-White Zombies deck tech is courtesy of Jacko because I just have to show you this masterpiece. I do hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do, remember to hit that like button, helps out a lot. This deck reeks of classic tribal shenanigans, so we're starting from the bottom of the curve and moving up. The deck runs a playset of Cryptbreaker, arguably one of the best zombies in Standard right now. Cryptbreaker is what you want to see all the time. The best part about this one-mana zombie is that it's good throughout the game. That discard ability lets you fill your yard with synergistic cards, as we'll explore a bit later, but you get more zombies for the Breaker's second ability. Being able to draw a card at the cost of 1 life, we've seen that before and it is quite good. Cryptbreaker, easy inclusion in a dedicated zombie build. Next up, Dread Wander, another full playset. 1 mana for a 2/1 zombie that enters the battlefield tapped is good, reminds me of Diagraph Ghoul. But this zombie Jacko puts the ghoul to shame with that ability. Being able to recur itself from the graveyard is crazy strong. Yes, you can only activate it as a sorcery and if you're low on cards in hand, but you're playing a zombie deck. Do you really think you're going to have a full grip the entire game? No, definitely not. Now, Dread Wander isn't as powerful as Gravecrawler, of course, but it's as close as we're going to get in this standard, and that's alright with me. Moving on to 2-drop, Scrapheap Scrounger has once again found its way into a deck, and it's hard to argue with this. Sure, the construct isn't a zombie, but it recurs itself like nobody's business, is a cheap attacker, and is on color, technically. Again, it isn't a zombie, but it's cards like this that give this version of the deck a truly competitive edge. If you want the best of both worlds, fun tribal and tier 1 deck, you're going to need to run the Scrounger, because this thing is really good in everything. The deck also runs a full playset of Wayward Servant, and here we see the main reason white is in the deck. Wayward Servant brings a lot of value on a small creature. Whenever another zombie enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Talk about incremental damage. Cryptbreaker is going to create zombies, Dread Wanderer keeps coming back, and those are just 2 of the zombies we've looked at so far. Wayward Servant is going to hit your opponent early and often. It's this kind of relentless prodding that will eventually win you the game. Wayward Servant is amazing, and in testing won a ton of games, surprisingly good. The last 2-drop in the deck is Relentless Dead, but only a pair of them. A strong early game zombie that comes with pseudo-evasion and self-recursion, along with a nice tribal recursion ability that will trigger your Wayward Servant. Relentless Dead is a powerful card, you have to include it here, but because there are already so many 2-drops, this is the one that takes the passenger seat. With playsets of both the Scrounger and Servant, it's just too heavy at the cost. Relentless Dead is quite good, but you don't need 4 of them, at least not in this version. The rest of the creature base is at 3 mana, and I think you're going to be exceptionally pleased. Diregraf Colossus makes a repeat performance, as this zombie giant is one of the best tribal zombies we've seen in a long time. Getting a +1/+1 counter for each zombie in your graveyard when it enters the battlefield is pretty sweet, but its real value? That's second trigger. Whenever you cast a zombie spell, put a 2/2 zombie onto the battlefield tapped. Oh boy. We're talking more fuel for Cryptbreaker, another Wayward Servant trigger, and just all around value. Getting free zombies in your zombie tribal deck, and now that's sick. To make your new army of zombies better, you should probably run the new Lord of the Accursed full playset. This was in every single version of the deck that we ran, and it is bonkers to say the absolute least. 3 mana for a 2/3 zombie Lord that gives your whole team pseudo-evasion. The value is unending in this deck. All of your 2/2s created by the Breaker and Colossus, now 3/3s, and they'll have Menace a lot of the time. That's difficult to deal with for any deck, to be honest. Lord of the Accursed is absolutely the real deal, definite inclusion. The last creature in the deck and another playset is Plague Belcher. I love this card straight to undeath, how could you not? Even on the face of it, it's 3 mana for a 5/4 with Menace. Sure, you have to hit something with 2 -1/-1 counters, but like I care even a little bit about that. Let your Dread Wanderer die, or a zombie token, or even just put it on the Belcher. It becomes a 3/2 that still hits your opponent whenever another zombie you control dies. If you can, I'd probably ditch a zombie so this 5/4 with Menace can swing in unencumbered, but if you have to target it, that's fine. This zombie beast's ability is strong, and when you combine it with Wayward Servant, you're hitting your opponent on the way in and the way out. They have to be worried about everything. It's fabulous. We did make one little tweak while testing this bad boy. In the original list, Zach runs 2 Dark Salvation. We changed that to 3. Personally, I think it's crazy underrated. Players don't expect this card from you, especially after you've exhausted their hand of its removal and disruption by playing your horde of zombie spells. Dark Salvation not only gives you a buttload of zombies that trigger your Wayward Servant, but it also functions as a powerful removal spell. People keep reading this card wrong, but let me explain. You target the player and creature at the same time, so you can target yourself as the player and an opponent's creature. You'll get zombies, and the targeted creature doesn't have to be your creature, gets -1/-1 for each zombie the targeted player you controls. I know it's a bit confusing, but this is the ruling 100%. It plays that way online. We good. This card also good. What would a black deck be without removal? Not great is what it would be. We're running a full playset of Fatal Push and a single Grasp of Darkness. Both good cards, both perform valiantly against Mardu vehicles and other high-priority decks. Fatal Push is going to have Revolt triggered a decent amount of the time. You're going to be in combat, you will lose your 2/2 zombie tokens, it won't be all that difficult. Plus you want things to leave the battlefield for your Belcher. I have no worries here, it's a solid removal suite, especially since the focus of the deck is on zombies rather than reactivity. The last non-land spell in the deck is Liliana, the Last Hope. She's like the black mana version of Gideon. She's just everywhere she needs to be. This version of Liliana is just so powerful and cheap and does exactly what you want. You'd be hard-pressed to find something to replace her that works just as well. Not only is she amazing against early-game creatures of all kinds, but her -2 fills your yard with zombies or returns them to your hand. For you, that's card advantage. In the unlikely event you get to -7, which you won't, she goes berserk, but all you need to know is that her real value is in that +1 and -2 ability, just way too good for this deck to ignore. Because we're running so low to the ground, it's easy to get away with a less than normal amount of land cards, in this case a measly 20. Playsets of Concealed Courtyard, Shambling Vent, and 2 Aether Hub join 10 Swamps. Wayward Servant is the only main deck white card we're looking to play, so the 10 non-basics should be enough fixing to make that happen. I was skeptical of the land amount at first, but it worked out surprisingly well. You aren't looking to get 5 or 6 for a long time, and the deck is so low to the ground that 3 mana can cast anything you have. It all works out pretty well. As far as the sideboard is concerned, it's important that you take advantage of having that white mana available to you. Including Anguished Unmaking is a particularly good idea. It gives you removal flexibility in case you want to get rid of something that is out of grasp range, that has Indestructible, a Planeswalker, anything else you don't like. I'd run at least 2 to 3, honestly. Also on the removal front, sideboard more Grasp of Darkness. There are creature-based decks out there that fall to Grasp super easily, and you will have games where you need more than just the pushes. I'd have a few in there just in case. The last big suggestion, Transgress the Mind. Great against control decks. Anything that brings mass removal to the table, make sure you keep it out of their hand. You have avenues to recursion, but they aren't perfect, so don't let yourself get swept away. Now, this version of the deck is white-black, but the version that we were originally building and testing is blue-black. After playing with both decks, I think the white-black version is more consistent, but I know a lot of you wanted to see the blue-black version, so this is where the differences are. We chose to include the Haunted Dead Prized Amalgam combo because that is a stupid interaction that is just way too powerful to ignore most of the time. And we put Voldaren Pariah at the top of our curve. Again, it's much easier to do that with Prized Amalgam and Haunted Dead, but it tested pretty well. Voldaren Pariah is a great top end in a deck where you can easily replace what you're getting rid of. It performed really consistently. We also ran a full set of Dark Salvation in addition to a couple Sinister Concoction. Again, we had a bit of an easier time recurring in this version than the white-black version, so it worked out. To make room for all of this, we didn't run any Fatal Pushes or Dread Wanderers, and only a limited number of Plague Belchers. And again, while our version is pretty good if I do say so myself, the black-white version that Zach made is just more consistent and honestly, a bit more fun. So what do you think of black-white zombies? Is this what you envision the deck would look like in its most competitive state? What do you like about it? What do you dislike? I'd love to hear what you have to say, so please leave all your thoughts below and we'll talk about it. Most of the time we like to create our own decks, but sometimes we just have to show you great creations. It'd be a disservice to us as a news channel and a disservice to you as passionate players. So again, let me know what you think and what you'd like to see more of in the future. And as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. This video was brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com. If zombies are your game, then you're in luck, because while some of the zombie pieces are a bit expensive, others are definitely not. Take Plague Belcher, for instance. This crazy zombie beast is $1.50. That's it. Just $1.50 for this Tribal All-Star. Not a bad deal. Already have your Belchers? How about Dark Salvation? An incredibly strong removal spell for this deck. 40 cents. 40 cents. Not really breaking the bank there, let me tell ya. If you want to build zombies, this is a great place to start. Just click the links on the screen, helps the channel, win-win, enjoy.